I'm standing here today in front of a bunch of Himalayan blackberries, and this illustrates one of the types of problems that environmental scientists, agencies, citizen organizations have to deal with: the spread of invasive weeds. In this case, the Himalayan blackberry is very adapted to moving in and overrunning other vegetation, and in doing so, and if we don't stop it, it overruns native vegetation and really creates a much less valuable use of that particular piece of land, that earth, or that natural capital. Now, one thing that's very interesting about Himalayan blackberry is the way that it grows. The canes grow up like this, and then they start to curve over and they make a really nice arch. It's architecturally very interesting. And then other canes go like this and lay over, and they keep laying on top of each other, and they build up quite an infrastructure that allows them to be above all the other plants. The other thing, of course, is they have these sharp thorns on them, and the sharp thorns really deter grazing by most predators. And the final thing is, if you sit there and chop away at them, that insult to the plant ends up making them much more aggressive, and they end up making more thorns. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about in this class is invasive species as one example of a problem, and this type of problem is what we're going to call a very simple problem, or a problem that can be solved with policies and regulations and specific management styles. That's because everybody agrees. There's very few people that think Himalayan blackberries are a benefit to the landscape. So everyone agrees that we should get rid of them, and we should spend some effort to deter them, to maybe remove them. So when everybody agrees and we have enough information, we can move ahead. And in this case, removal of invasive plants is that sort of problem where everybody agrees. Now, we might have other problems with the land. For example, let's say we want to have native vegetation versus grazing on the land by animals like sheep, goats, cows. Or we might want to grow trees that grow fast so we can use them for pulp, paper, instead of native trees. Now, people would disagree on that, but again, we know how to grow those trees, we know how to maintain the forest. It's not a simple problem, but it's a problem where we need to get community agreement. So it becomes a problem of underlying values, and how do you do that? So that's the second type of problem. The third type of major problem we face as environmental scientists is when we just don't have enough information. So now let's say instead of it's Himalayan blackberry, where we know we can go through, cut them off, rip out the roots, what if we have some invasive plant that is novel and we really just don't know how to interrupt that cycle? That might require a lot more information before we move ahead. But in those cases, we still might have to do something right now. In that case of that uncertainty or missing information, we have to structure our activities so we learn from them. So this is an information or complexity problem. And the fourth type is when we have a sort of a mishmash of all of those. And we're going to call that a wicked problem. And that's really one of the major focuses of this course, is how we address wicked problem. And a wicked problem is where we don't know enough, there's an information gap. We expect that the information is probably going to change. And people not only disagree now, but they might change their value system as we move ahead. And what that means is, as we start solving the problem, we might change people's ideas about what they want out of the system. So a good example of that is when in Poland they cleaned up some of the ecosystem problems through restoration. What they found is that once people saw how nice the ecosystem could be and started to value that clean air and green space. They actually wanted more of it. So they weren't satisfied with what had been previously decided as being a good solution. Their values changed. The values of the public were changed to be they wanted more of that green space and more of clean air and more of that sort of utility instead of the polluted and destroyed ecosystems. So we're going to address those 4 types of problems. That is, simple problem, everybody agrees we think we have enough information. Second is where we really need to have some community institutions that help us decide between competing values. The third type is a problem that's we don't have enough information. There's a high degree of uncertainty in what's going to possibly take place. And the fourth is a wicked problem where it's we don't have enough information and people's values might be changing. So with that, I'd like to welcome you to the course, and we'll start working on understanding those problems.